Hello and I welcome you all to Global News Factory. I'm your host, Vikrant. We're covering three topics in this video. First, Ukraine theater has a new actor on stage, the MI6. It has passed on explosive intelligence to Ukraine. We have intervention from Germany too. We discuss details shortly. Then we go to Warsaw, where to fix its rail problems, high IQ Polish ministers have decided to send $100 million to Ukraine. Wow! And in the end, we discuss how Japan might be trudging towards nuclear weapons as it manufactures a crisis with Beijing. Let's start. Yesterday at GNF, we said the US and Ukraine want to stretch peace talks for months to keep the war going. Today, a new guest walks in wearing a trench coat and a British accent, the MI6. And they bring a shiny file. The file says Russia plans to move Arctic troops to Ukraine to boost its offensive in winter. So, out of nowhere, we have this intervention by MI6. Hey, you all are preparing for peace? Look, we have intelligence. Russia is coming for you. Telegram page called Resident reported this, quoting officials from the Ukrainian presidential office. The page reported, I'm quoting, British intelligence believes that the Russian army wants to use winter snowfalls as cover from drones for deep strikes behind the Ukrainian armed forces lines, unquote. Yes, the timing of this intelligence is perfect, like popcorn right when the movie starts. So what is the signal here by MI6? We have two signals. First, Russia is short of men. That is the message that they want Kyiv to hear. If Russia needs reinforcements from the Arctic, maybe Ukraine can get a breakthrough if it keeps fighting. And then we have second signal, a massive Russian winter invasion is coming. So Ukraine, stock up on weapons, dig in, and don't talk peace right now. MI6 steps in, and the only direction they point to is more war prep, please. Let's be honest, does this so called intelligence sound genuine? I have questions. First, Russian troops are already advancing fast. If the train is running on time, why add extra engines? Reinforcements? For what exactly? Photo shoots? And second, would Russia really pull troops from the Arctic when Nordic countries are doing big cold weather push-ups right on Russia's doorstep? Around 15,000 troops are in exercises near the border. Finland's early winter drills started on November 8th and run till December 5 across the north and south. Not just Finns, by the way, we have Britain, Sweden, and Poland too participating in those exercises. If you are Russia, do you empty your Arctic cupboard at this moment? Sounds like a bad time to leave the fridge open. But hold on, it is not only the UK pouring the gasoline on fire. While this drama plays out, Germany brings out the long-range menu. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says that Berlin is working intensively with Kiev on long-range fire projects. He says, I'm quoting, the Ukraine army is being equipped with such weapon systems, unquote. And no, he would not share the full list of delivered weapons. Surprise gifts only. He adds that supplies will rise in the next weeks, and if needed, in the coming weeks and months, the increase continues, including making some of those weapons inside Ukraine itself. Let me quote Merz for you, and then you can connect the dots yourself. He says, I'm quoting, in the coming weeks and months, if necessary, this will increase the supply, including the production of such weapon systems in Ukraine itself. He is talking about long-range weapons here. So Germany's message is also this, hey Ukraine, don't even think about peace. We are about to give you this super weapon. Hold on. Yesterday I told you how the EU and the US are fighting over frozen Russian assets. Today, we see European capitals suddenly writing bigger checks for Ukraine, and they're doing it even after the Mindich Gate scandal erupting there. The wallet stays open. Why? Because peace is bad for business. If peace arrives, that 140 billion euros in frozen assets slip away. Let's put it together. The MI6 whispers winter fear into Kyiv's ear. The message says, hey, hold your line, load your guns, wait for Russia to overextend. We have Germany, it boosts long range weapons and talks about production in Ukraine. Europe pushes more aid despite scandals, and the frozen assets sit like a golden carrot dangling over every meeting room. The plan is to keep Ukraine in fight mode while saying the word peace on TV. Moving on, Poland just tried to fix a train problem with a shopping spree. Yes, you heard that right. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski has made a truly foolish statement. He says that Poland will buy $100 million of military equipment from the US and then supply it to Ukraine in response to the recent railway sabotage. How stupid is that? First of all, Sikorski called the sabotage a Russian act, despite the fact that it was carried out by two Ukrainians. And then, how does it make sense to spend taxpayers' money on Ukraine in response to a rail attack? If your house roof leaks, do you buy a new car for your neighbor? Exactly. Let me read his lines so there is no confusion. I'm quoting him. As part of Poland's response, we will spend $100 million on American weapons to be delivered to Ukraine, unquote. Oh, any sane leader would pledge more resources towards protection of the country's resources and transport network. You strengthen the tracks, you guard the junctions, you fix the holes, not empty the wallet for someone else's weapons. Now, let's talk reality because it is openly visible. The attack was carried out by Ukrainians to blame it on Russia and in an attempt to drag NATO into this war. That is the script. And here comes the dangerous part. Just imagine what message Poland is sending to Ukraine here. If sabotage gets you $100 million in weapons, why stop at one incident? Now, Ukraine will plan more such acts of sabotage in Poland and other EU countries in anticipation of more aid. Poland is setting a very bad precedent here. It should have punished the perpetrators, instead it is rewarding them. And it does not end there. In response to the railway sabotage, Poland also ordered Russia to close its last remaining consulate in the country. So, one rail attack and boom, Ukraine is getting one reward after another for the sabotage. Somewhere in the world, a diplomacy teacher is banging their head on the desk. But people of Poland themselves are not buying this story by the Polish government that Russia was behind the sabotage. A recent research by Res Futura Data House looked at what Polish people are saying online, and most of the comments suggest a Ukrainian hand behind it. Let me quote them directly so we are clear. The largest number of comments suggest that people of Ukrainian origin are behind the incident. Res Futura wrote in a post on X, it added, these actions were retaliatory or provocative, allegedly to draw Poland into a direct conflict with Russia, unquote. The research found that only 24% of the statements by Polish citizens blamed Russian for the attack, while 19% of the comments put the blame on services linked to the Polish state. So, the public is not fooled. They see the stage, the actors, they see the script. And what does Warsaw do with this public mood? The Prime Minister steps in with a magic trick. PM Donald Tusk then blamed Russian disinformation for this anti-Ukraine sentiment among the people. He says Russia wants to divide the West and divert it from the needs of Ukraine, which is much weaker without international support. Translation: if you disagree, it is propaganda. Convenient, right? Moving on, let's talk about a quiet storm in East Asia. Everyone in Europe is still glued to Ukraine crisis, but while eyes are west, something big may be brewing east. The question is simple and a little scary. Is Japan slowly moving toward nuclear weapons? So here is the scene. Tensions between China and Japan are rising again in the East China Sea. Usually, these fights flare up around the Senkaku Islands. These are small, empty islands. Japan runs them, China claims them. Classic who owns the rocks drama here. But this time, the heat is not only about rocks, it is about Taiwan. The West fears a possible invasion by China of a democratic Taiwan, and that fear is changing everything. On November 17th, Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi gave her first big speech in parliament since taking office in October. And she went bold. She suggested Japan could step in militarily if Taiwan is attacked. That one line made Beijing extremely furious. Chinese state media said her tone sounded like the old war days when Japan hurt China. The message from China was loud: take this statement back. Takaichi said no. China then told its citizens to avoid travel to Japan, saying public security there is getting worse. And to make the pain real, China also slapped a blanket ban on Japanese seafood. This hits wallets. So, yes, Japan is already paying an economic cost for poking the dragon. Now, the question is, will an invasion actually happen by China? We don't know. There is no guarantee. But the world is acting like it might. The West is acting like it might. The US is leading that narrative. On the very same day Takaichi spoke in the parliament, Washington announced a $700 million arms sale to Taiwan. That timing is not subtle. As I always say, Taiwan sits right at the heart of America's plan to keep China boxed in. You can call it simple. Taiwan is the Ukraine of Asia for the US and NATO. Different map, same playbook. Now here is the twist that should make everyone sit up. By pushing these tensions higher, Prime Minister Takaichi could end up creating the perfect excuse for Japan to consider its own nuclear weapons. She is reviewing Japan's famous three principles from 1967 that kept the country away from the bomb. Those rules say Japan must not possess nuclear weapons, must not produce them, and must not allow them on its soil. The ban is that third piece. The other two are very clear: do not own, do not make. Now, this review opens a door that was shut for decades. And even if that review never fully vanishes, one more factor could push Japan forward. Many in Tokyo doubt the strength of America's extended security umbrella. In plain English, the fear is this: will the US really risk everything to protect Japan if things go bad? If that trust keeps shaking and if China-Japan tensions stay high, it becomes much easier for Tokyo to look the public in the eye and say, okay, we need our own weapons now, our own nuclear shield. Fear sells, security sells faster. And what is funny, in a not so funny way, is the silence, my friends. Nobody is talking about this loudly. Not the usual Western press, the think tank crowd, not even the Russian press. Imagine if the word Iran appeared in the same line as nuclear weapons. The world would be on fire 24/7, sirens blaring. But with Japan, it is mostly whispers. So, my friends, a nuclear Japan no longer sounds like science fiction. It sounds like a plan waiting for a push. Let's hope cooler heads win because once this door opens, it would not close easily. And that is all for today's episode. Thank you very much for joining. You watching GNF.